Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome to your top 5 moments for the 2018 F1 Bahrain Grand Prix, round number 2 of the season, and what a round 2 it was. So many great moments, so it's going to be tough really this time round to pick a top 5 compared to the Australian Grand Prix, but just like last time, I tweeted out just after the race what your top moments were on Twitter. A lot of you guys tweeted me back, and I'm going to collate the top 5 moments with all of that and my own personal beliefs, what the top 5 moments were. But as I said, it was a very good Grand Prix, really great one to have off of the back of the Australian Grand Prix, where there was so much talk about a lack of overtaking, and there was so much action, not just overtaking, just moments in that race that were really great to highlight. So it's gonna be a tough one, but let's get into it. But just like with the Australian Grand Prix, there are definitely also some honourable mentions. The first one, unfortunately, I can't really call it a top moment. It is a big moment in the Bahrain Grand Prix, but it's a very negative tone. It's unfortunately that accident that happened with Kimi Raikkonen coming to the pit lane for a pit stop, his second pit stop, and the left rear jack guy, or not the jack guy, the left rear tyre man, who was meant to wait to pull the tyre off, pretty much had his leg run over. The replays aren't pretty. I would advise, if you don't like looking at that stuff, I wouldn't look up a replay. But if you do, it is horrifying of an accident there, and thoughts with him. Hopefully he makes a speedy recovery and gets back to the pit lane very soon. Obviously, even Vettel saying it was a very kind of half and half. He's happy he's won the race, but on the other hand, they had a retirement, and also more importantly, they have a member of their crew hospitalized now. The Ferrari official Twitter account tweeting out, apparently it was a shin bone and fibula fracture. So our thoughts are with Francesco. That's the name of the mechanic. So hopefully Francesco makes a speedy recovery. Not really a top moment, but a big moment in the Bahrain Grand Prix. Unfortunate, and it did lead to Kimi Raikkonen also retiring, which maybe kind of threw off Mercedes and threw off the entire last part of that race. Because for me personally, there was that moment after that accident happened where pretty much everyone on the TV, on Twitter, were all concerned about the mechanic, and it was almost like the race, everyone was out there still racing, and it was almost like the race kind of went into kind of its own virtual safety car, almost. Of there wasn't much talk about what was actually going on in the race, because everyone was just concerned about the mechanic, and it was almost a very kind of maybe the engineers, the Ferrari especially engineers, didn't know what to do now, because they couldn't make a pit stop with Vettel, maybe because they didn't have their full pit crew. Obviously they're also concerned about their member of staff, and at the same time Mercedes also maybe kind of half confused about, Mercedes just, Ferrari just came in for a pit stop, so is Vettel going to come in? Do we push? Do we not? So it was definitely a big moment, but for me personally, I just can't personally put that in a top 5 moments, because it's not exactly a happy moment in the Grand Prix. So coming in at number 5 is going to be the Red Bull disaster at the start of that Grand Prix. Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo both out of the Bahrain Grand Prix within 5 laps, leaving Toro Rosso Honda to be the lead Red Bull team in that race right to the end. Verstappen with a puncher after battling Hamilton, which was some really questionable and maybe a bit too fine defensive work from Verstappen to try and fight Hamilton. And then Ricciardo had an electronic shutdown. His car dashboard and the screen completely turned off, and he parked it just after the hairpin in the middle of the circuit. So a real big calamity for Red Bull. They've been talking, this year, we're all talking about Red Bull maybe being the ones to finally take the fight to Mercedes, and now it's ended up, obviously, the results by now. Ferrari winning 2 races on the trot with Sebastian Vettel, and Red Bull are now below McLaren in the Constructors' Championships. Like that. It was just an implosion on their part, and I can't imagine what Ricciardo's thinking at this point. Obviously, this could very well send Ricciardo out the door for Red Bull with all these issues happening. But yeah, what a calamity that was to kind of kick us off at the Bahrain Grand Prix. Number 4 is going to be Marcus Ericsson and Sauber Alfa Romeo getting points at the Bahrain Grand Prix. A great result for Ericsson. They tried something different with his strategy compared to Charles Leclerc. They went for a longer stint with Ericsson. He was at one point all the way up into, I think it was P4, and then eventually just had to do the best job he could to nurse the car home. Obviously got overtaken by the likes of the McLarens, Gasly coming back into the fray, Hulkenberg as well, but Ericsson still managing to find himself on the road in P9. Just simply a great result for Ericsson and for the team. It now leaves Williams as the only team not to score points in the 2018 season. So top job to Ericsson, and top job to the engineers at Sauber Alfa Romeo. Obviously they've done it before. Verline, remember, last year at the Spanish Grand Grand Prix. Verline pulled off a one-stop there at the Spanish Grand Prix. Similar sort of thing, great strategy work from the team to pull that off. Number 3 is going to be Lewis Hamilton's triple overtake into turn 1. Absolutely sublime stuff. Of course, Hamilton qualifying 4th place, getting a 5-place grid penalty, starting P9 and having to fight his way back. And in the end, it was P3, a pretty decent result. He himself said he was pretty happy with that. It could have been maybe more. I mean, Toto Wolff, saying that, in hindsight, there could have been more stuff there, but that was a great key moment for Hamilton to make 3 overtakes straight after the virtual safety car came back in after the Red Bull retirements. For him to just pounce like that, sparks flying. I mean, the photos are insane from that moment. Hamilton down the inside, just a wonderful overtake for Hamilton, and a crucial one at that moment in the race. But you can appreciate that at any point in the race. That would have been an epic moment in any Grand Prix, really. Number 2, Pierre Gasly and Toro Rosso Honda coming home in 4th place at the Bahrain Grand Prix. I'm lost for words. Absolutely crazy, especially for Pierre. It's his proper full debut in the season. Obviously, he had a half season last year, but now his first full-time drive in Formula One. His best, let alone Sunday, his best Q3. Getting to Q3 first time. His best ever showing in qualifying in Formula One. Straight in there, first time in Q3, brings that out P6, and then obviously getting a little bit lucky with Raikkonen's unfortunate retirement later on in the Grand Prix. He was still P5 at that point, so that would have been a fantastic result, let alone P4, which is, I believe, the best result for Honda since 2008 at the British Grand Prix. I think the fact is, I might need a fact check on that, but crazy stuff. For Toro Rosso to be in P4, a Honda-powered car to be in P4 in the V6 era, and then for Pierre Gasly to be in P4. I said it on my Instagram story. All 3 of those statements, mad statements, really, and it's a wonderful thing. It could have happened to a nicer person as well. Gasly, really down-to-earth guy. He's had his few little struggles at the end of last season with that really struggling Toro Rosso at the back end of 2017. I myself personally said on podcasts, I really hoped that the Toro Rosso this year could be a car he could show his true talents with, and he's pulled it off. P4. Just crazy. And the mechanics, the scenes for the mechanics after the race was also great. So heartwarming. Kind of almost like when Carlos Sainz did so well at the Singapore Grand Prix. For those mechanics to get to see their car come home in P4, especially after that car retired at the Australian Grand Prix, that moment is so good. And it would have probably been number 1 if it wasn't for what is number 1. And that number 1 moment at the Bahrain Grand Prix is going to be the last lap, the fight between Bottas and Vettel. A fight, build up between Bottas and Vettel. The tension there, I think I can speak for all of us. We're all on the edge of our seats there for that last lap there. Bottas obviously on medium tyres, Vettel on softs, going from so early on that Grand Prix. No one predicted they were going to try a one-stop. Pirelli themselves did not tweet out that was going to be the strategy. And Vettel managing to hold off Bottas with the amount of tension there. His tyres must have been absolutely gone. He said himself that he said on the radio jokingly, I've got it under control, in a very Kimi-esque fashion to kind of make a joke. He was hoping it got on TV, I think he said on the podium interviews. It didn't get broadcast, but then afterwards on the podium interview saying he had no control. He was just really getting nervous about Bottas closing in. Bottas, I don't know, let me know in the comments below. I think he maybe left it a bit too late to start pushing, and also you can bet if maybe Daniel Ricciardo was in that Mercedes car, he would have had a much bigger dive bomb into turn 1. Bottas tried a bit of a half-assed attempt into turn 1 in my and a lot of people's opinions, but it did, nonetheless, apart from that, it was still a very high tension moment. That last lap, that's the kind of thing you want in multiple Grand Prix. That's the thing we're sort of hoping for from the Pirelli tyres, that, usually teams almost get the strategy too perfect. They do the maths too well. Whereas this Grand Prix, it seemed like all the teams, the top teams even, just didn't have really much of a clue of how that race was going to pan out. And it allowed for that last lap tension when it all came to a head and you had that kind of racing where Vettel had to show why he's a 4-time world champion. The amount of control you need and kind of just composure to defend like that when your tyres must be so cooked. He's on soft tyres for so long. He really earned his money, and the Ferrari car also earned its money today, showing that, he's capable of doing a strategy like that, which is pretty damn wild. So that's been the top 5 moments according to you guys tweeting me, and then kind of my own personal opinion there. Obviously, as I said, there were too many moments in this Grand Prix. It was a fantastic Grand Prix. I would even say almost like a 9 out of 10 race, really. It had pretty much had everything, almost. So let me know what your top 5 moments were in the Bahrain Grand Prix. Another honourable mention, and I would maybe put this in a top 5, but it wasn't actually in the race. It was post-race. Lewis Hamilton in the kind of the podium room, if you will, getting their waters and whatnot, takes off the helmets and he sees a replay of what happened with him and Verstappen, and he calls Verstappen a dickhead. And you can also see on the replays, Vettel then turns straight away. They're both looking at the same screen. Hamilton calls Verstappen a dickhead, and Sebastian straight away turns back around, almost to cover a smile off, because he starts smiling, but then kind of holds it through like, no, I'm not going to smile. I'm not going to laugh at that, because that's, that'll be poor taste on his part. So that was quite a funny moment. I think a lot of people had a lot of fun with that on Twitter. Especially after the way that incident happened, Verstappen a little bit maybe questionably too aggressive with that move, and then Hamilton just straight up calling it as it is, how he seed fit in the podium room. And I think people who were watching Channel 4 had an ad break, so they did not see that. Only the people on Sky actually saw that. So it's floating around on Twitter if you did not see it. And then finally, just as a whole, how crazy that top 10 was, barring the top 3, the rest of the top 10 runners, so mixed up. Obviously, Gasly there. Then you've got Magnussen, you've got the McLarens, who, by the way, now are up to 3rd place in the world drivers in the Constructors' Championship, which is, it's half and half, because McLaren didn't really perform amazingly that race when you consider, everything that went in qualifying as well, the embarrassment that was Toro Rosso getting into Q3. They did not. They had an emergency debrief, but fair play, when you add up the numbers at the end of the day, they are 3rd in the Constructors' Championship, obviously helped out by Red Bull, but that's quite a big, deal for McLaren to, yes, may have not been an ideal Grand Prix, but they're still there points-wise, and that goes hand in hand with number 5, as I mentioned, Red Bull's implosion. But yeah, that's going to be all the talk of the Bahrain Grand Prix for now from me, guys. Obviously, I'm going to be doing the Pit Lane podcast, where we're going to, kind of dive in and fully review the Bahrain Grand Prix. That video will be coming out tomorrow on this channel, so if you are new around here, do get subscribed for that podcast. We do a weekly podcast, and we review every single race, and we talk about F1 news every single week around the weekend or on Mondays following the Grand Prix, so do get subscribed for that. If you did enjoy this video, guys, hit that like button. You guys did seem to really enjoy it at the Australian Grand Prix, so do be sure to hit that like button again for the Bahrain one. And as I said before, let me know your top 5 moments. Obviously, as I said, I collated this from you guys tweeting me, and then kind of my personal belief of what the top 5 moments were. It's very hard, actually. It's hard. It's a lot harder in a race like this, where there's so many good moments, to actually pick a top 5. I didn't think it would be this difficult, but it was. So do let me know your personal top 5 moments. But yeah, guys, hope you enjoyed that race. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. I've been aarava. Goodbye.